Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Miskatonic AV Club. We are doing our Miskatonic Museum
It's a
player
Mythos
review.
Busters production,
Oh my
Scott.
god. You know what? You do it, Sean.
No, we're keeping this. This is live.
Oh god, okay. It's a Mythos Busters production. Thank you, Sean. With me, I have Ian. Ian?
Or we did.
Or we did. Oh no. I'm
Oh
Scott,
boy.
and the guy who totally ruined the intro was Sean.
Hi, I do that.
Yeah.
I do it when I do the intro too, so it seems only fair.
Fair. I feel like I should have something crunchy to chew every time you go to talk. But yeah, so
Yeah.
Miskatonic Museum.
what
What a pack. Our first
what a
our first pack that actually came out, not a, what do you call it, a deluxe set or anything. So we're not
Mythos pack is I
Mythos
think the
pack.
official term.
It is. We're not going to divide this into different classes or anything because it would be like a bunch of, 10-minute videos. So yeah. So Ian, are you with
Oh
us?
yeah.
I hope so.
Oh, there you are,
Yay.
Ian. Ian, do you want to start us off, seeing as you are the roguish player?
Sure. So our first card is Contraband. It's a 4-cost event with a will and an intellect pip. Has the supply and the ever popular elicit trait. Choose an asset controlled by investigator at your location. Double the number of ammo or supply tokens on that asset. It may not be legal, but it gets the job done.
Does it though? Is the real question.
It would if I actually included it in my decks.
So
See,
knee-jerk reaction from me, like, it's 4 cost.
Yep, that's it.
Yeah.
So the issue with this one for me is you have to have it, you have to be able to afford it, and you have to have enough uses left on that thing that you already have in play and presumably are already using for this to be worth paying for.
Mhm.
And that's a big ask, I think.
Yeah. I mean, the dream is to have this plus whatever you're going to play in your hand at the same time, but one that rarely happens. Well, I guess theoretically, again, I haven't actually included it in my deck, but theoretically, I imagine that probably doesn't happen that often, just given probability. And second, that's just a ton of resources. Like, say you do 45 in Contraband, that's 8 right there. I don't know, you might as well just play another 45 later if that's what you're going to use it for.
Yeah, see,
And again, that's all assuming that you play them back to back or
Yep.
before you use any of the ammo on your 45. But, it turns out monsters kind of show up from time to time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's kind of how I feel as well. Contraband. I'm gonna make these a little bigger. Like, why not just include another a copy? And then I think one of the arguments people could say is, well, what if you don't have a second copy? It's like, well, there's probably a different card you could sub in that will do a better job than what Contraband's.
Probably for cheaper.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, because theoretically you could like double flashlights or something like that. But yeah, I mean, I guess the idea is this is like another copy of that key card, but I don't know. Maybe this is one for the future. Maybe we'll get one, or maybe for those big like Widowmaker weapons that you are using, that's something, but
Like
still,
a lightning
I don't
gun.
know. Yeah. But again, you run into the resource issue, which granted, rogues have resources, but not that many resources.
I think there you also run into a very specific investigator issue because some of the big bomb weapons that you'd love to play this on are, so far at least, kind of locked down to Guardian.
Mm-hmm. So Zoe's looking at this. Who
This is always
admittedly
looking at this.
does kind of make money, but not like rogues do.
Yeah, I think this one is the one to keep an eye on because there might be a fun combo that this feeds the fuel of, and maybe in the future, in distant Arkham land, every investigator has a decent resource engine, and resources are just in general less expensive.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe then this gets good.
Yeah.
Get good.
All right, Sean, you want to read Adaptable?
Oh, do I?
Oh wait, no, I should read this because of what card is next.
Oh, that's fair. That's fair.
Okay, so Adaptable is an asset that costs 1 experience and no resource cost because it is a talent and it has the permanent keyword. In between each game of a campaign, you may swap up to 2 level 0 cards out of your deck in exchange for an equal number of level 0 cards. You must still follow all deck building rules for your. This is a cool
So I'm
card.
gonna actually recuse myself from discussion on this card because I'm in my current play just cheating with everyone and basically adapting everyone because I never keep decks assembled, and then I'll play a campaign up to current and then disassemble, and then I don't know, I don't have a good way to keep control of decks. So yeah, I haven't actually used this one in its actual context yet.
Ian, have you used it much?
I've definitely used it in my Jenny campaign so far, and I like it. I don't know. I think where I might not like it as much is if like I've played the whole campaign before and I know what's coming and I can kind of chart my trajectory. But if like is the case right now, I'm just kind of blindly going through my campaign. I like having the option of swapping out cards that are proving not as useful, or because what actually happens in practice is, say I play my Ashcan Pete campaign first, for instance, and then I'm going to play Jenny next. I happen to know what's going to happen in the next scenario, and with Adaptable I can go ahead and switch in some key cards that might help with whatever their particular problems with that scenario are. So I don't know, and I guess I don't have enough hubris to believe that I'm going to build the most perfect version of that deck the first time out at the beginning of the campaign. So I like having the option of correcting my mistakes later on for no cost or reduced cost.
I'm finding I've tried this deck. Like I'm kind of like Sean, where I'll just play like up to current and then disassemble a deck, play another up to current or whatnot. But I'm finding I tried this in one deck. It was a Jenny deck, and I tried to do it on a blind run, and I was not super impressed because I'm like, well, what's coming next? What should I adapt to? But I can totally see this once a campaign's out, and you know what level 0 cards might just be killer in one scenario and not be so much in another. I found it way more adaptable in that sense. One thing I will note too, because this is the rule guy. If you upgrade Adaptable in that same upgrading phase, if you want to call it that, you can then use Adaptable's power. So you can pay that 1 XP and then swap 2 level 0 cards in that same in between scenario phase.
So assuming you're doing it, you're still saving yourself an XP overall.
Yeah, essentially, yeah, you're saving 1 XP for that little swap, and then every other swap from then on out is just gravy.
Yeah, and I think another good point that Chris raised in the chat is about that I often use it to add in cards from whatever new pack is coming out.
You guys need permission to do that?
It's definitely a thing in this game that we get new player cards of the level 0 usually with each new scenario, and sometimes those cards are good and you want to switch them in without having to start over your campaign or be a dirty cheater like Sean. So
yeah, full disclosure, that's totally cheating. And I do it all the time.
Yep. Happily.
Yep.
How else do you play new cards if you're locked down to the same deck, yo?
Oh, you just play 5 more different campaigns.
Yep.
Sean.
Yeah, not a whole lot to add on Adaptable, except it's a metagame card.
Mm-hmm.
It seems cool though. I don't know. Like, to me, this seems like the best use of this ability. Sorry, I thought I didn't have much to add, but I have one more thought. The best use of this ability seems to me like for multiplayer in specialized decks, because I think you've got more room to swap out if you know what's coming. Because in kind of solo, you're kind of generalized anyway, so you kind of need to keep a little bit of everything in your deck between scenarios, regardless of what the next scenario is, at least at this point.
Mm-hmm.
And the sad thing is, I think I don't know that rogues, at least now, are really specialist. It's a specialist class. Like, I suppose you can build a really fighty Jenny, but I don't think, unlike Guardians or Seekers, I suppose, that really kind of scream for specialization. That's of much use as yet.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You want to continue delving into these cards with the next one here?
Too greedily and too deep. Oh boy, guys. So, arguably the best card in the game at the moment, we have Delve Too Deep, which is a 1-cost Mystic event, level 0. It has the Insight trait for whatever that might matter in the future. In player order, each investigator draws 1 card from the top of the encounter deck, then add Delve Too Deep to the victory display. And why does that matter, you might ask? Well, this is a player card with 1 victory point on it. And, I don't blame people when you see this, that they might be a little bit afraid.
Mm-hmm.
Might be a little timid in playing this card. And I don't think every investigator can handle it. I think you do also risk garnering some group ire if you just bring this to a pickup multiplayer game. But that being said, when I've included this, at this point in the card pool, I am actively running out of things to spend XP on. Legit. I have this in every Agnes build. I have this in Gym. I have this. I even put this in my higher education Daisy build because I was feeling really saucy.
Oof.
And oh god, you know who this is really good in? Zoe.
Yeah, she's really good at taking care of the encounter deck.
She sure is. So yeah, I don't know. This has come through for me in every way that I hoped it would, and the ability to just enhance your deck for the future. You're drawing encounter cards to become more powerful in later games.
Mm-hmm.
Now the real question is, when do you take it out of your deck? Because I haven't done that yet.
After scenario 7.
That's fair.
I think you kind of have to take Gandalf's advice or retrospective on how the dwarves did their delving, because they dug too deep too fast. And you have to be very careful with how you use this card. I think much of the chagrin that comes from people using this card comes from people being like, I've got a free action, and then just plays it, and everyone else is not quite ready for it. I think it's a very strong card. And I think people, if you're playing in a group, to be like, okay, someone's running Delve, maybe 2 people are running Delve, and it's just like, okay, we have to be very careful when we use it and almost prepare and be like, okay, maybe this turn is the turn we delve or even double delve, because the person playing Delve is the first player going that turn, and then everyone else has their turns to deal with whatever comes off the encounter deck. I think it'd be an error to play it, last action of the last player and just be like, hey, let's just have a double Mythos phase kind of thing. So
yeah, I think this was the card that I was initially kind of scared of, but it's still a little bit scary, and I think it does depend on investigator. I guess the dream is that you can do this like right before you resign or everyone resigns, so it doesn't really matter. But I think in general it rewards you if you are kind of aware of what are the cards that will completely mess you up and then counter deck, and how many are left and then counter deck, and just that kind of scenario awareness, I guess, if you want to call it, so you can calculate those odds and be like, well, half this deck left is stuff that could really hurt me. I probably shouldn't delve too deep right now, versus like, well, there's 1 card in the here that can do it, and then at that point you have to decide, if you're feeling lucky that day or not.
Yeah, and definitely I think more than anything when you're playing this card, you have to be very, very cognizant of your board state and your situation, and like you said, the cards that are in the encounter deck, what could come out, what could you handle, what could you not, what are the odds on that 1 card that could wreck you coming out? Do you have Ward of Protection in your hand?
Mm-hmm.
All those sorts of things. But one of my favorite things is any scenario that ends generally with the investigators resigning. one of my favorite things to do is just sit on one or two of these for most of the game. Get to the end of the scenario, camp on the
resign spot.
the resign location. Action 1, delve too deep. Action 2, delve too deep. Resign.
Yeah.
So wonderful.
I guess the other thing I'll say too is generally I've found the current campaign pretty XP light for the most part in most scenarios, with a couple notable exceptions, like the museum. So I think that has also shifted my opinion on Delve Too Deep a bit more, that if you really want to upgrade your deck a lot, you kind of need to do a little extra to make it happen in a lot of cases, because the scenarios aren't given out that much for the most part.
The ancient ones help those who help themselves.
Right on. Ian, you want to read Song of the Dead?
Sure. So the next one is also Mystic. This is Song of the Dead, an asset, 2 cost, level 2 with 1 will pip. It is a spell and it is a song. It uses 5 charges. Action, spend 1 charge to fight. This attack uses will instead of combat. You get +1 will for this attack. If a skull symbol is revealed during this attack deals +2 damage. And it takes up an arcane slot.
So a knife that you hold in the arcane slot that costs you XP and 1 more than knife. And has charges.
That's a terrible way to describe this card.
I know.
But I don't disagree. This is, I don't know, I find this one to be just like a nice supplement. Like shriveling is kind of your mystic bread and butter if you want to use your willpower to fight, and this one's kind of nice to have in between. If you've got that enemy down to 1 hit point, you don't want to waste that last shriveling charge with overkill, then yeah, Song of the Dead's a nice thing to have out. And occasionally that skull will pop out and you can just be happy about it.
I think if you're, depending on the scenario, if you're playing one of the standalones, I think it's Carnival has 3 skulls in it. The odds are a bit better for that extra damage, or if you have Grotesque Statue out, so you have a better chance of drawing a skull, it's pretty neat. I'm not a huge fan of paying 2 XP for a nice to have card, not a need to have card. That's kind of my one challenge to this card. I do like that it is essentially a knife for those with high willpower, like Agnes, like Daisy. She can take this as well. That maybe don't excel in combat, so they can, get rid of an acolyte or rats in general. I'm kind of middle of the ground on this card.
Yeah, I agree with everything you guys said. I guess the biggest issue for me is I do like it as an auxiliary card, kind of a supplement that lets you kind of take care of weaker enemies. But the strange thing about it is that's kind of what seems the ideal use, but then it's quote unquote special powers to deal like a crap ton of damage if you get lucky. So most often you're going to be using this against those little weenie enemies, but then if you happen to hit the 3 damage, it's like, okay, that's nice. I mean, I guess this is like when you're left with nothing else, and because you're never ever going to be depending on the kind heart of the chaos bag, right? So
yeah, it's kind of a weird spot in that way, isn't it?
Yeah, I guess in the future, if we get more stuff that lets you manipulate tokens, then potentially, I don't know, it's not bad. It's just
also takes up an arcane slot, which I feel is in a lot of decks that would take this is kind of, except for Daisy. Well, unless you're playing Spellcaster Daisy with what's the permanent one?
Higher Ed.
Yeah, Higher Ed. There we go. It takes up an arcane
which is
slot.
the best Daisy build, by the way.
Oh my goodness.
Just out there. It's so fun.
Yeah. As long as you can get through that first scenario.
Yes.
Like for someone like Agnes taking Song of the Dead, it's like, well, do you really want to risk clogging up one of her arcane slots? That's my big challenge on this one.
Yep. It's fine. It's all right. It 2 costs 2 XP. It doesn't ask a whole lot. It's all right.
I think if you're going to use it, you should have a plan on how to use it. Speaking of which, there is the Seeker event, 3 cost event with 0 XP. 1 intellect, and 1 combat pip. I've got a plan. Insight and tactic, and it has the action fight. This attack uses intellect. You deal +1 damage for this attack. For each clue, you have max +3 damage. That's the worst plan I've ever heard. Well, what are we waiting for? Sounds
Game changer.
Yeah. I mean, I've been trying to do some solo Rex stuff, and this makes it quite viable. It's a little bit expensive, but Seekers are not always that poor, especially if you got Milan Christopher out there. You kind of have to work on balancing your clues. But the ability to use a stat that you probably have 5 or 6 in to do 4 damage is insane.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's nice to just kind of have.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean that's really all there is to say. It's such a big difference in Seeker's play because Seeker generally has a fair amount of card draw, so presumably you can find this fairly early and sit on it till you need it. And the ability, the ability of Seekers to deal with big enemies from Dunwich Legacy to this pack, like they're just different investigators now.
Mm-hmm.
You can play them solo and not be constantly afraid of things.
Yeah.
And it's also nice to have in multiplayers, like, cleanup duty, taking out an enemy that's giving the beefier characters problems, or that happens to be in your section of the map. Like, I find it's handy for even the big cleavers to have a couple tricks up their sleeves for those situations. And this is kind of like the Seeker backstab, I guess, with variable damage, but it comes in a class that doesn't have access to a lot of other fighty stuff. So yeah, it's definitely a key card.
And a class that's likely going to be stacked up on clues as it is.
Yeah, especially in multiplayer, right? Like you're going to have sometimes 6, 8 clues. Awesome, you're full up. Ian, you want to read? Oh no, who's next? Sean, Pathfinder.
Pathfinder is, I don't know, maybe the jewel of this pack. I suppose we'll get there. So it's a 3-cost Seeker asset, level 1, has an agility pip, a talent trait, and a free triggered action during your turn. If you are not engaged with any enemies, exhaust Pathfinder, move to a connecting location.
This is incredibly strong.
This card! What is this card?
End of story.
It's so good in solo. It's so good in multiplayer. I mean, solo, you're not going to have a lot of enemies because you're only drawing 1 card a turn. Multiplayer, you probably have someone else, picking off enemies for you if you're the nerdy class, getting all the clues and not really doing much combat. Like, pay 3 for a free action each turn.
And it's not unique or limit 1 per investigator, guys.
Yeah.
You can have 2 Pathfinders on the board, and you should.
I played a multiplayer with Rex, and we were playing Carnival, and I mean the number of laps. I got 2 Pathfinders out within the first 2 turns, and the amount of laps he was doing of the Carnival map, like, it was ridiculous.
But it's exactly what you want in your clue finder, the ability to quickly get yourself into position to camp down on that location and just go hungry hippos. Mm-hmm. And the fewer actions you have to spend moving to get there, the more actions you have to get clues and do other things. So there's just nothing wrong with this card.
Mm-hmm.
Except for, you just have to beat your first scenario first because it costs an XP. But not a big ask.
But 1 XP, it's dirt cheap.
Oh yeah, and Chris points out in the chat a good point. So Roland also, of course, can take this, and it's good for him because if he doesn't have an enemy, he wants an enemy. So you can move to an enemy if you don't have one. So it's kind of like, I don't know, shoring up a little bit of a weakness for him, I guess.
I feel like
actions are one of the most valuable things in the game, and so to get it for 1 XP and 3 costs, that's pretty amazing. That you're essentially in a lot of cases getting an extra free action a turn.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, in solo, this card is a winner. Multiplayer, it's good too, but solo, you're basically getting a free action every turn, or darn near close to it. So
Play the card.
mhm.
Put it indexed.
Yeah. Ian, you want to read Oops?
Oops. Oops is a 2-cost event, 2 combat pips, the fortune trait, so that means someone like Rex can't access it. Fast, play after you fail skill tests by 2 or less while attacking an enemy engaged with you. Deal this attack's damage to a different enemy at your location.
And this
This
is
is
Survivor.
one of those tricksy survivor cards that they like to have.
I
feel like.
go ahead,
Go
Sean.
on.
No, not
All
a
right,
Canadian
well, I
stand-up.
feel like yeah, no, I got it. So right now, I'm not quite sure if this one has a place. I've tried it in a couple decks, and I've more often than not ended up checking it for its icons. I've actually never gotten this to trigger. For you Lord of the Rings players out there, this one's very, very reminiscent of Small Target. If you remember that card,
Mhm.
if you've ever gotten it to work, good on you. It's a really fun card. I love the theme of it. But this it's kind of an ask. You've got to have 2 enemies engaged with you. You have to be doing enough damage so that playing this is actually worth your time. And if you're in that position, chances are you're probably going to hit the enemy you're hitting anyway. I don't know. Maybe if we come out with kind of a dedicated fighty survivor, this has got a better place.
I mean, maybe in Evade Tank Wendy. Like, maybe.
Yeah, but maybe. But
Like, I'm just trying to
when
find
is
a
she
spot
gonna
for it.
fight?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like maybe she evades, and then tries a fight skill, knowing that she'll probably fail by 2, maybe. But yeah,
I think there's probably a really fun build to be had out there, probably 4-player only, of kind of a Wendy evade tank that uses Aquina and Oops and things of that ilk. But I've not yet cracked that one. I've tried.
I think I kind of lumped it in with because I feel like there's a few of these survivor events that are more niche, designed for special circumstances, and they tend to see more limited play for that. I think this is definitely a multiplayer card. Like in solo, there's not a lot of times where you're gonna have those 2 enemies at your location, and if there is, it's gonna be a problem. I mean, there are definitely situations where that happens, but I guess it's another case of like, how much are you willing to bet that the encounter deck is going to line things nicely up for you?
mm-hmm.
Generally, it's not a good strategy to hope for that. So I think 3 or 4 player potentially, like maybe you're attacking an enemy with you that doesn't have retaliate, and your real target is like the enemy that does have retaliate at your location, for example. So either you hit the thing that's there, or you fail and you're able to do your damage to that other enemy. Without having to risk like attacking the retaliate enemy. I don't know. Like that's potential uses for it, and I think the uses increase with more players and more enemies on the board.
I feel like coming from a competitive card game stance, this is kind of one of those cards. It's like when you're not doing so well, maybe this card can help you. But I feel like that argument is often flawed. It's like, well, maybe just do better. Like don't plan to have cards in your deck that are only working if you're not doing well. And I mean
this coming from our survivor player.
Yeah, I know. But I mean, like Survivor, you can like do the if you fail kind of build, but you're still planning for that. I think this is like when you're really down and out. It doesn't matter if you're failing or not. Like you're just up the creek without a paddle. I just don't like having cards in my deck like that. I like the 2 combat pips that it does have, but yeah, super niche.
Yeah, I think the difference with this and the more kind of staple survivor cards is, like Scott said, that you can plan for it more consistently, like something like What I Found or even Lucky, obviously, whereas this is, you need too many ducks in a row to make it happen consistently, and that's always a dangerous game.
Yeah, it requires such specific positioning.
Yeah.
And even then, even if you get all the positioning right, it might not even be worth it. The enemy you have with you might be the higher hit point one, and the one you are able to hit is rats.
Yep.
So okay, who cares? Yeah, I don't know. Next time. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and throw this out there. The next time the four of us are actually able to get together and play a Twitch on Octagon, I am gonna throw together a Dodge Tank Wendy deck, and I will play 2 copies of this to see if it is possible. And I'm not holding out a whole lot of hope.
I'm just gonna say, how dare you, sir? That is my role.
Fine, I'll build it. You play it,
okay.
or we can build it.
We can build
It's
it
fine.
together.
We just need to see it happen.
So speaking of that deck, I think one of the first cards that's gonna go in that deck when we upgrade is the next Survivor Event Flare. 2 resource cost, 1 XP with a Wild Pip tactic traded, and it has either choose one. So fight, you get +3 combat and deal +2 damage for this attack, and then you exile it. Or search the top 9 cards of any investigator's deck for an ally asset and put it into play under your control. Then exile Flare. Shuffle the search deck. So we should mention exile for those that don't know. Basically, when you exile it, you literally take it out of your deck and put it back in your card collection. It leaves your deck. So when you go to upgrade your deck after this scenario, this card is not in there, so you either have to pay for it or you can just put in a level 0 card for free to fill its spot.
I've found this to be worth the 1 XP every time, even with repeated exiles.
Oh my goodness, yes.
It's so good. Oh, also, rules guy, you can verify this one. But I believe the way the rules word it on its second ability, where you're popping the ally into play.
Yes.
Because the wording is put an ally into play under your control, then exile Flare. If you fail to find an ally in the top 9 cards of your deck, you do not then exile Flare, because the then is conditional on the successful placing into play of the ally.
Yes. Then is
which is cool.
It's a super loaded word in FFG games. So yeah, if the phrase before then isn't successful, then the then doesn't happen. So yeah. So you just discard the card instead of exiling it. I mean, it doesn't stay in your hand or anything, but yeah. And then you still have to shuffle the search deck, because shuffle doesn't have the then precursor. So anyways,
didn't they put in the rules reference that anytime you search a deck, unless otherwise notified, you should shuffle it? I thought that was in there at some point.
I think they put in the FAQ, but yeah. I'm not sure.
It should be, yeah.
Well,
we'll tell you otherwise.
Maybe not though, because if you, I'm thinking of scrying, where you can reorganize it, but you're not really searching the top 3. You're just, anyways, Flare, the ally ability is amazing. Honestly though, the fight can get you out of a sticky situation quite well. Like +3 combat, and then you're doing 3 damage with that attack. That's a good get out of jail free card.
Pretty solid.
It is. And it's nice having the option, and both options are potentially game saving, scenario saving. So it's nice having that flexibility for sure. And the fact that you just put the ally into play under your control, so you're potentially saving however many resources, the cost of 2, the difference between that and whatever the cost of the ally is, it's pretty good.
And this essentially turns into another copy of said ally in your deck. So if you've got a key combo that triggers off of having an ally, like I love this in my Agnes deck because it helps me find my level 2 Pete. And yeah.
And I mean, if you do have your level 2 Pete in your hand at the start of the game, you get it out. Having that other option for it to be a sudden fight, then I get out of jail free card. Like that, the choice is what makes this card so amazing.
Yeah.
Cool.
And it's also nice in those situations where you're getting up there and your damage or horror, and one of the central roles of an ally is to be your meat or brain shield. Yeah. So it's like I need you.
And you can take from other people's decks, which is awesome.
Yeah, that's true.
So
God, that's right. I always forget about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't have to.
You don't even have to have consent.
And and they don't even have to be at the same location as you. It's just like pick a deck Search it. Fantastic.
Hey, Ian, I'm going to take your Leo now. Okay, thanks, bye.
No, I'm gonna slap your hand away.
I'm taking Peter Sylvester. All right.
And did we ever figure out, is this Zoe pictured here in her pajam jams? She looks like she's got Oshkosh Bagosh on. Let's be real.
Totally.
I love the art, though.
She could be
that sneaky ghoul coming up behind her.
Maybe it's one of the Hicks from Dunwich. The slack-jawed yokels.
They wouldn't know how to work a flare. That's advanced technology.
I have trouble reading the campaign guide when they go into like the slack-jawed yokel speak. Anyways, that's an aside. Sean, would you like to put out the dumpster fire that is this podcast?
I don't think even this next card could accomplish that goal. But we do have Fire Extinguisher, which is a 2-cost level 1 survivor asset. Has an agility pip, has item, tool, and melee traits. Has 2 action abilities. So 1, spend an action, fight. You get +1 for this attack. This one could be called similar to Knife.
Mm-hmm.
And other action ability, spend an action, exile Fire Extinguisher, evade. You get +3 evade for this test. If you're successful, evade each other enemy engaged with you as well. That's what I have less experience with. I think I threw it in an Ashcan deck once just to try it out, and ended up never really using it.
I think you could put this in that Wendy Dodge Tank deck, because that +3 agility, now you're at 7 agility just base, which is just insane. But yeah, I don't know, because it exiles. I mean, Flare's so good because it does something so amazing. This one just does something amazing for a turn.
Yeah, when you exile Flare for its damage, you're doing 3 damage. You're going to solve the problem of most enemies in that case. When you're evading, you're delaying the problem of those enemies, which, it has value, but it's not the same.
I mean, in the last scenario of the core campaign, this could be a game changer. But again, those bad guys are still there. Maybe a one of. Maybe.
Yeah. It seems like a scenario specific type solution compared to Flare, which is definitely why I think I'm less hot on this one. But I think, I don't know. Overall, it's one of those ones that's going to save your bacon maybe once, and then the other times it's just going to kind of be there. And it's hard to judge the worth of those cards in a lot of cases. But I mean, you think about what's the 5-coster Cunning Distraction from the core set. This does something kind of similar for 2 costs, but then you exile it and you use the 1 XP. So I don't know, if I was going to do something along those lines and I really had the need for that Cunning Distraction, then I would probably go with this one instead, because you're not going to use that card every game. And this one is something that can give you a little bit of fringe benefit with the +1 combat throughout.
Yeah, it's basically Cunning Distraction with a knife attachment. Or half a knife.
Yeah.
Quit trying to work in knife to everything, Scott. Not everything's a knife.
Oh, I think that's a knife.
I see you've played Knifey Spoony before.
All right. Ian,
For that.
Do you want to read Emergency Aid?
Sure.
With sour Bill Murray.
Looks like he had an encounter with a knife as well. This is a 2-cost event. Intellect and agility icons. Insight and science traded. Choose an investigator at your location. Heal 2 damage from that investigator or from an ally asset he or she controls.
Guardian's gonna guard.
I like this card a lot. I think in general, we've talked a bit about healing in other reviews and on the podcast. And like the kind of repeatable healing is good in multiplayer because you can have some actions to spare and you have more targets. But I find, especially for solo, that I really want more burst type healing. Like just play it once, heal more damage. I'm only using one action to heal more damage. And I'd rather just do that because I'm probably not going to be going around wasting a ton of actions healing. I'd rather just do it once, give me the breathing room, and keep going.
It doesn't require you to think ahead, because I'm super not good at that.
Yeah, it also doesn't require you to test, which is nice as comparison to like
Mhm.
medical texts, right? Where you might fail and accidentally stab yourself in the foot, maybe with a knife. Um,
God damn it.
I will note too that it's the knife episode. As a rules aside, you can't split the healing damage. That was asked to Matt, and he said no. It's 2 damage from an investigator or 2 from an ally. You can't do 1 and 1. So
And point of interest, is this not the first card that we've gotten that explicitly allows you to heal from an ally? Everything else that heals from an investigator, correct?
yeah, healing is pretty much investigator only unless specified otherwise. So exactly, emergency aid you can heal Duke or something.
Yeah, I think anytime I was previously including first aid, this has replaced it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I really like that ability to heal from an ally. You're still getting the buffer because you can put more damage on them later, but you're also protecting kind of that key card for you. It's really good.
Especially in some of those scenarios where a treachery might deal damage, it has to be dealt to allies first. Then this can save the bacon of a very specific ally. Although based on that guy's shoulder, that's kind of looks like bacon, doesn't it? Just a little bit.
Yeah. So an ally that might require some saving, maybe Brother Xavier, Guardian class asset. He is a 5 cost, 1 XP ally. He's got a willpower pip, and he gives you +1 willpower. Brother Xavier may be assigned damage and or horror dealt to other investigators at your location. And then reaction, when Brother Xavier is defeated, deal 2 damage to an enemy at your location. He's got 3 health and 3 sanity and takes up the ally slot.
Did you know, Scott, that in Soviet Russia, Brother Xavier saves you?
He really does. Especially for someone like Roland, who might need a little sanity sink, plus giving him some extra willpower, plus dealing damage when he dies. Like, that guy's insane.
There's a lot to the Brother Xavier package, and I think I was more lukewarm when I first saw the card, but after using it and experiencing it, it's definitely worthwhile because even like say you're playing solo and the signing damage thing to him doesn't even matter, like the rest of it is good. Like you're getting plus a static boost, which I'm a big fan of, to your will, and then you're getting like a 3 health and 3 sanity buffer, like almost if he's bringing along a bulletproof vest and an elder sign like with him to guard you. So it's, I don't know, just that whole thing gives you a lot of breathing room, which gets more important as the campaign goes on.
Yeah, especially this guy. I played him. He's a Zoe card. I mean, he's great in Roland, don't get me wrong, but this guy is so good in Zoe, especially if you're playing tanky Zoe, which my builds tend to be. And he's such a rock star in Undimensioned and Unseen. You know, no spoilers, but it turns out willpower is kind of important in that quest, or scenario rather. And oh god, yeah, there's just so much to this card. He's guarding everyone as you would expect, and there's really fun strategy that comes into deciding when you pop him. And I'll often forget, like, oh, I could just take, I draw a card, incur attack of opportunity, and deal 2 damage, and like factoring that into your battle math, it opens up so many options.
And I mean, the amount of stats, like Ian, you mentioned it can't be understated. Like, he takes a hit from Umerdorf for you, and then deals 2 damage to Umerdorf. That's just insane.
He's good.
Yeah. And in multiplayer, that ability to assign damage to him that, I mean, you could potentially follow people around in the late game when they're getting up there and be kind of their emergency valve so that they don't get knocked out.
Yeah. Yeah, the fact that you can protect other players. I'd totally flare for him.
That's the new Arkham pickup line.
I put up a flare for you.
10 out of 10 would flare again.
And I don't want to get too far ahead of it, but this is another ally that works really well with Painkillers and Smoking Pipe, because if you've got him 1 horror or 1 damage away from being able to pop, and you need to pop him, you don't have a way to get an enemy to attack you or someone else. Yeah, I don't know what situation that would call for, but you can use Painkillers or Smoking Pipe to put a damage or horror on him to pop him.
Sean, why don't you read Painkillers and Smoking Pipe? We'll kind of do them together because they're so neat.
Seems solid. All right, so Painkillers is a neutral 1-cost level 0 asset with a willpower pip. It is an item, which is important, it turns out. It has uses 3 supply. God, no, we need to figure this out.
I think
guys.
it's uses.
Uses 3 supplies. I believe it.
Yeah.
Or it has 3 supplies as its uses. Okay, anyway. Free triggered action, spend 1 supply, exhaust Painkillers, and take a horror to heal 1 damage. Do not exceed the recommended dosage. And we have the other side of the coin, Smoking Pipe, which is also neutral 1-cost level 0 asset, willpower pip item, uses 3 supplies, free triggered action, spend 1 supply, exhaust Smoking Pipe, and take 1 damage to heal a horror. A good pipe can calm the most frazzled of nerves. These are fantastic neutral cards for this game to have.
Mm-hmm.
I'm glad we got them early.
Yeah.
Because this helps take a lot of pressure off of the investigators who are 5/9s or 9/5s.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
There's also fun shenanigans.
Yeah.
There are shenanigans.
Why don't you take us through those shenanigans, Agnes? I mean, Sean. Sorry.
See, every time I try to explain this, I have to stop and think for 30 seconds to get the sequence right.
Yeah.
But really, Agnes benefits, I think, the best from it. But really, the shenanigans comes in with Peter Sylvester. Thank you. So if you've got Painkillers is the main one. So if you've got Painkillers out, you can use it, take a horror, put it on Pete Sylvester, heal a damage, and then Pete Sylvester heals that horror off at the end of the turn. Great. It's basically free healing. Now, if you also have Smoking Pipe out and you're playing Agnes, you can heal horror off her by taking damage, thus increasing her capacity to use her ability later on, and then do the Pete Sylvester Painkillers combo to do damage, by itself right there. And you end at like a net neutral, like you didn't gain any horror, you didn't lose any horror, you just did free damage. It's amazing.
Are you calling the build drug addict Agnes? Is that what you're going with?
I call it Junkie Agnes.
Agnes, that's it, yes.
Yeah. But it amounts to the same thing.
But can you actually be a junkie on aspirin? Because that's what it says in the picture. It's just aspirin.
Yeah, it is questionable. I'm just like to pretend like it's Percocet in an aspirin tin.
Fair enough. Yeah, hiding it from the cops. From the fuzz.
I mean, to be fair, you don't label an over-the-counter drug tin like opioid.
Yeah. Should have the illicit trait.
That would be the dead giveaway.
Yeah.
Oh, well, if my Penguins are lulz is correct, apparently in the 1920s, aspirin came with codeine, ketamine, and fentanyl. Yeah, so let's go with that.
Nice.
Let's pretend that's true.
Nice
Don't
mixture.
exceed the recommended dosage except for when it's fun.
I overlike these cards as like a cheap form of healing. Obviously, it's kind of healing combined with hurting you in another way. But like you said earlier, Sean, this is good for those imbalanced investigators. Whether you're Daisy and you're usually going to be running into damage trouble, you can kind of reverse that and use your pool of sanity, or vice versa with someone like Roland. So I don't know, if you can't afford the time or expensive healing, then I like that these are cheap, one cost, and then each use is just a free trigger. You're not wasting an action on it. So I find them useful in that way.
I find in my solo Rex build, I pop in a Painkiller, just one, and that seems to do the job pretty well. Just because he, like Daisy, has a huge sanity sink, but a lot of enemies do damage. So this is just basically moving 3 of his sanity over to the damage column, or health column, and really helps to even it out.
For a moment there, I thought you said that he had a huge sandy sink, and I'm looking at the art going like, where's the sand?
Yeah, there's no sand.
But another point of interest, and like I mentioned when we were talking about Xavier, is the damage or the horror that you take to heal can be placed on allies. So if you know you're going to chump an ally and it's going to die anyway to the damage, and it also has a spare horror, well, sure. Take the horror there, heal the damage off you. Ally dies anyway, and you've kind of made out like a bandit. So yeah, I like these cards. They're good. They're nice little cards and options to have in the early card pool. I think to really take the pressure off Roland and Daisy. Really, I've included them in other investigators, but those are the main 2 I'm thinking about when it's like, oh god, they need a solution for that 5.
They're not super flashy cards, right? They're not a card you're going to look at and be like, whoa, this is so crazy. But it just adds more reliability and stability to a deck. And I think that can't be understated as, like, it is so important to have reliable, sustainable actions within your deck to kind of keep your game going.
Yeah, especially when you get hit by that like huge rotting remains hit or something, that all of a sudden you get stuck with a big pool of horror, and then at least you can deal with it in some way with these.
So I'm gonna go ahead and let you guys vote. Who do you think made out best in this pack? Because this is a good pack. Lots of good cards in here.
I gotta say, not Rogue.
Yeah.
Sorry, Ian.
I'm definitely voting for Seeker for sure.
Yeah. See, I think Seeker got the best package overall, but I mean, come on, delve too deep. Seriously.
Yeah.
Seriously.
I think most.
Okay, so I'll give it to Seeker overall. Favorite card in the pack is too deep. Let's go there.
I think my favorite card in the pack. Oh, geez. There's 3 that I'm competing for. I've got a plan. Pathfinder and Flare, I think, are just the bee's knees. But Ian, what's your favorite card out of the pack? Contraband?
No.
Delayed reaction.
I wish it. I wish it was, but no. I think I want to say I've got a plan. I like just that bursty damage in Seeker, and I like the portrait where apparently their plan revolves around electrifying the doorknob, which is pretty cool.
Pathfinder. This pack may be mined for resources.
Yeah, I think I might agree with you, Ian, actually, with I've got a plan. Just because of what it adds to the Seeker class, it adds an option, right? Like, Pathfinder's a really cool trick. Flare is awesome, but I've got a plan really adds something that they were super lacking.
Yeah, it adds an amazing option for their worst aspect prior to this point. Game changer.
Yeah. Pretty good pack, though. Like, overall, there's a lot of middle to high-end quality cards.
It's definitely what you would want in your first Mythos pack, that there's a lot of kind of like base pieces or pieces that aren't that high in XP cost that will be used for a long time, I think.
So
I look forward to 2 years down the road when Contraband has become a staple and everyone teases us for it.
It's like the Steward of Gondor that no one saw. So small talking point I thought I'd bring up, totally surprising you guys. From what we see in this pack and the packs we've seen released, it looks like we're not getting investigators in Mythos packs, as far as we know so far. Are you guys happy with that? Not happy? What's your view on that?
I mean,
don't all answer at once.
I'm of the mind that the more investigators, the better.
Mhm.
I was the same way with Netrunner, like, yeah, all the IDs all the time. And I don't know. But I also understand why they want to be a little bit more measured with it, because there's the production complication that you have to produce mini cards too, which is an entirely, I'm sure, different setup and complication to packaging these things.
Mhm.
We do get the big influx at once if they continue to stick to the deluxe only. Though I wouldn't mind the odd gator in a Mythos pack, but I personally don't see it happening.
Yeah, I think I overall feel the same way as I do about, like, I'm a big soccer fan, so the World Cup, it comes every 4 years. So part of me is like, oh, why doesn't it happen like every year? But then would it be a special? I kind of feel that way about the investigators, that it'd be nice to get them more often, but the fact they only come in deluxe expansions is going to really heighten the excitement for each new set that comes out. That being said, I did have the thought the other day of like, okay, the Carcosa investigators are coming, and then it's going to be like another 8 months or 10 months before we get new investigators after that. That's kind of crazy. So it's just thinking about how slowly the pool of investigators is going to grow.
Diana's so far away.
Yeah, I think that's the other thing, is some of my favorite investigators in the Arkham files, like, it may be like 5 years before I actually get to play with them. So I don't know.
I'm kind of the thought process that I understand what you guys are saying, and new investigators are cool. I kind of like the pace at which we're getting them, because I enjoy the varied builds that we can do with the investigators that we have, because we're getting so many of these cards that aren't investigator specific, right? Because investigator takes up 3 cards essentially, and more, because we saw the previews of the Carcosa pack. So, and like looking back at Conquest, they shoved a warlord in pretty much every pack, and I kind of didn't like that, because it basically limited the pool of cards that any warlord or investigator could take. So I like the fact that we're getting all these cards, and you're gonna see, like Kluver Rex, Solo Rex, like 19 different kinds of.
Wait, hang on. There's a difference.
Well, I guess solo versus multiplayer kind of thing. 19 different builds of Agnes. I mean, I don't know. I like the variability in the investigators we're getting. So I think I'm on the opposite side of the fence. I like the pace at which we're getting them now. I thought I'd bring it up just as a talking point, because I figured you guys would have a different view on it than I would.
Yeah, and it's kind of that thing, like you pointed out, like, maybe what you want isn't what's best for you.
Yeah.
And I can accept that.
Yeah. Right on. Well, that's the Miskatonic Museum.
Woo whoop.
Yeah. Thanks for joining us, everyone. That was fun.
Really? That's your outro?
I'm waiting for you to do the outro, because you ruined my intro.
Oh no, well, I'll leave your outro alone. Go ahead.
So this has been the AV Club, a Mythos Busters production. If you'd like to get in contact with us, I'll do the same thing that Sean does and forget all the ways. But mostly Facebook, Mythos Busters. Just search that on Facebook. A lot of us are, or what's our email, Sean?
Our email is mythosbusterspod@gmail.com.
There's also our Discord channel. Just search Mythos Busters. You can find our channel. It's super fun. It's super active. Or sorry, our server. I'm Sage on there, SAEJ.
You can find that at
discord.me/MythosBusters.
That's the one.
Huh?
Oh, and we have a new thing. I'm so excited. Yeah, I know. We got a new thing.
Is that thing happening?
That thing is happening.
Yes!
We're doing it now. We're going in raw. Okay. So, all props to Mr. Trench, Casey, a friend from Arkham Knights, and in our Discord server, and he's usually here on Twitch too, though I'm not sure if we saw him today. We have a new feature to our podcast, which I'm very excited at the prospect of. So if you guys have a comment, a question, if you have rage at something we said during a podcast or during one of the AV clubs and you just need to unload on us, we have a way for you to do that now. I'd like to introduce, and you're hearing it here before the actual podcast, the Mythos Busters hotline. Yeah. So you can call this number and leave us a message. And the idea is that we will play some or all, depending on how many we get of these messages on air, either in the AV Club or on the podcast proper. Either just play them and let them be self-contained if it's just a comment, answer a question if it's a question. If you rage at us and it's funny, we'll probably put it on too. So if you have such a thing, call us at 203-493-MYTH. That's 203-493-MYTH.
Wow, we actually got Myth in there.
We got Myth.
Oh my goodness, yes.
All right, well, that's all I had. Close it out, buddy.
All right, thanks for joining us, guys. Catch us on Sunday for a real live Mythos Busters actual podcast.
Oh, yeah.
See you guys.